What do magic mushrooms and Santa Claus have in common?
Nothing?
A lot more than you think.
Ah, right. I forgot this was TikTok, where everything is made up and the facts don't matter.
You know that classic red mushroom with the white dots? These are called Amanita muscaria, and in the wild, they're commonly found under pine trees, just like the red and white presents underneath a Christmas tree.
So those mushrooms form symbiotic relationships with many trees, including oak, cedar, birch, spruce, fir, and yes, pine trees. But that's not the only tree they're associated with. And Christmas wrapping paper comes in many colors. It's not just red and white. That should be obvious.
Over a millennia, the indigenous people of Siberia would collect these magic mushrooms. These people were called shamans and were older, bearded men who wore the colors red and white to honor the mushroom.
You know, it takes less than 30 seconds to Google Siberian shaman. You know what you find? They're not in red and white.
Each year, the shamans would pick the mushrooms and put them into a big sack. To reduce their toxicity, the shamans would hang them to dry on tree branches. Or they would dry them out by hanging them in a sock above the fireplace.
There is no evidence for any of these claims.
During the winter solstice, the shamans would go house to house delivering their gifts. The doorways were covered in snow, so the shaman would go to the roof and drop the mushrooms down the smoke hole. Reindeers were common in the Siberian Arctic, and they also enjoyed eating these little magic mushrooms.
Okay, enough. This is all nonsense that was made up by Robert Gordon Wasson in the 1960s. He was not a historian or an expert in Siberian shamanism. In an interview with NPR, the real historian Ronald Hutton said, "If you look at the evidence of Siberian shamanism, which I've done, you find that shamans did not travel by sleighs, didn't usually deal with reindeer spirits, very rarely took mushrooms to get trances, didn't have red and white clothes." You can check out Hutton's book if you want to know what the shamans actually believe in. So basically, Wasson made all these connections to Christmas up, and people actually believed him. Santa Claus is just a revitalized St. Nicholas. In the early 1800s, Dutch immigrants living in New York reinvented the Catholic saint into the modern understanding of Santa Claus. At the time in the city, Christmas was basically celebrated with drinking and partying, and many wanted the holiday to be more family-oriented. The celebration of the gift-giving saint was moved from December 6th to December 25th, and he was revitalized in the traditional attire of a Dutchman from that day, and so he was depicted as wearing a big red coat. So the modern Santa Claus is really an American invention. He was not connected with paganism like Odin or Thor, let alone Siberian shamanism.